Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hope a Thing, a Native American podcast, where we discuss focused topics within tribal housing and self-determination. I'm Brooke Warrington, the Training and Development Specialist here at the Seminole Tribe of Florida Native Learning Center. And here with me is our special guest, Everett Osceola, Seminole Tribe of Florida member, who is the film Liaison and Cultural Ambassador for Florida Seminole Tourism. He's sitting down with us once again, and he's going to share his real reflections about the 10th anniversary of his brainchild, the Native Reel Cinema Fest. So can we go ahead and introduce yourself to our folks who are not familiar with you just yet, Everett?
Sure. Again, my name is Everett Osceola, Johachifkarat Hini Hamathalet, Mado to Native Learning Center, and Brooke for bringing me on for a third episode. So I'm the film liaison, culture ambassador, a bunch of other stuff. But what I like to do is film and are showcasing film. And we just, like you were saying, we just celebrated our Native Reel Cinema Fest 10th anniversary. Started in 2014. Now it's 2025. So we kind of did a little bit something back in October, but I felt like the whole thing should be done during the tribal fair, because pretty much we wouldn't have been known if it wasn't for the tribal fair and powwow and tribal fair committee.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. Do you want to share with us how the event went this year? Was there anything that you did different because this was the 10th anniversary? Was this the first year that you guys were hosted at Seminole Tribal Fair and Powwow? Just kind of talk to us about your experience that you had this year.
Okay, so this year we had a bunch of people from the past and currently that are new come to the tribal fair. I wish I could bring everybody back that I've had within the past 10 years, such as Stephen Paul Judd, Cody Lightning, Simon Baker, Taboo. The list goes on and on. Sterling Harjo. It would have been cool to bring like a lot of them back, but because of the powwow, we ran out of hotel rooms. But we did bring back one of the veteran actors, which is Wes Studi, who's done over 150 films. And one of my favorite films was, or still is Last of Mohicans. And even though it was released in 1992, I still wanted to do a 30th anniversary, but we can never, things kind of came about. Some films came, I didn't have time, not time, but I didn't have a time slot to show it. And I kind of wanted to do it properly and to have a time slot for it in the Q&A for Mr. Studi. So we did it 2025. So I couldn't say it was 30th anniversary. It was 30-ish anniversary. So he came out. I was trying to bring another actor that was in there named Eric Schweg, who was actually one of my good friends. And believe it or not, oh my God, this is a good story. Sorry. Story time. So when I first got into talking to celebrities, Native films, such and such, it started back in 1999. I just started with Seminole Broadcasting, and I was part of the work experience program. Pretty much, I was at home, and my mom came in, and she just put a paper in front of me, said, sign it. I signed it, didn't know what it was. And then the human resource for the Seminole Tribe headquarters, they call me, and they said, okay, you're going to report to Danny Jumper on Monday morning. And I'm like, who's Danny Jumper? So then I was like, all right. So I showed there, I got there around 8:00, and it turned out to be Seminole Broadcasting, which I didn't even know we had a broadcasting thing. Shows how much I knew back then. But we had like a Seminole channel. At that point, I think it was part of, I'm dating myself right now, but we used to have a cable called Jones Inter Cable. And we used to have a channel on there, and Seminole Broadcasting had a channel. It was about 4 hours. They would show content, community events. Sometimes they would show movies late at night. And when I got there, I was kind of like the assistant to the duplicator, which is if they did something, back then we had the beta VHS tapes. Like you walked in there, it was like almost like a res blockbuster. And so we had all these big cabinets with all these videos or VHS tapes. People would come in and they would want a recording or like a copy of it, so I would help the duplicator out, and it was Bonnie Montlow at that time. And then I was I was just basically the grunt. So anything that like watching the front desk, doing the duplicating, helping out key grip. But I loved it. And my mom came in, Mary Jane, Mary Jane Willie. She came in. She was the county clerks at that time for the tribe, or not the county clerk, the tribal clerk. Oh my God, sorry, the tribal clerk for the tribe at the time. So then she came in and she gave me this paper, and it had, I thought it was like a joke, but it had, Wes Studi, Eric Schweg. They're going to be at this gala event, and I think it was in Deerfield or Pompano. Well, both, whatever. So then I reached out to the person. The lady was name was Tracy McCreary, and she was very polite, very nice. And then she said she had reached out to the tribe before, but she didn't get anywhere. So I was like, oh, well, I'm new at that time. Yeah, 1999. So I just turned 20. So I was like, all right, so I would like to come and, maybe speak to them and do an interview with both Wes and Eric Schweg. So they invited us to this gala event. However, we had to dress up, which is not my thing. So we get there, and I met Eric Schweg and Wes Studi. Wes Studi was there for a couple of nights, and then he had to leave. But Eric Schweg loved South Florida. He loved being around me and my family. My mom had cooked, rice and gravy and fried bread and stuff like that. So he wanted to stick around and see all, and he wasn't aware that we had 6 reservations. He thought it was just 1 reservation. I was like, no, we have 6, one in Big Cypress, which is the Everglades, one in Brighton, which is kind of like our cattle country. And so he wanted to kind of see all the different reservations. So he stayed with me for about 2 weeks. And when he stayed with me with 2 weeks, what I used to love is his BTS stories or behind the scene stories. I didn't know he did a movie with Ted Danson. He did a movie with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And then he would just tell me, this person was great to work with. This person wasn't, this was what happened on set, whatever. And then we kind of like lost touch a little bit. He was kind of telling me he was kind of getting out of the movie game, but he always says that. Sorry, Eric. But he always says that. And next thing I know, he was in a movie not too long after that, he was in a movie with Tommy Lee Jones called The Missing. And then we kind of got in touch again for the 30th anniversary, but he said he's really into just taking a step back from acting, and he's a really gifted mask wood carver. So he would do like all these beautiful masks, and then he became like a bladesmith. So he makes all these really cool looking Asian, Native American inspired knives, kind of like mixed together, but they look really cool. And then he just finished a katana sword, I believe. So he's really kind of getting into it. But yeah, sorry, back to what I was talking about. So I wanted to kind of bring those two back, because in the movie, they have this really pivotal scene between Wes Studi and Eric Schweg where they actually have this battle. And I love that, and the music that goes to it. And it was shot in North Carolina. And unfortunately, it was shot near, I believe it's called Chimney Rock, which was affected by the hurricane. So we talked about that a little bit. I brought it up during the Q&A. And Wes Studi was great. He was fantastic. He took his time out. So we had Wes Studi, Eugene Brave Rock from Wonder Woman, Jessica Manton from Resball, Jane Myers from Prey, Martin Sinsmeyer. He was a Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington. So Martin has been coming back. I call him like a fiver, because I think this is his 5th year coming back. I kind of wanted to get an award for him, but we just were pressed for time. But I wanted to get it. But he's always coming back. Like, he even says he loves coming back here. He loves how we treat him, and all the Seminole tribal women come out to see him. And I'm not even lying. Lenora Roberts actually gave him a very beautiful coat with patchwork on the side, on the sleeves, and it looks freaking awesome. Like, I saw it and I was like, oh, like, why are you getting all I kind of asked him, just like hazing him. I was like, why are you all dapper? And he's like, no, one of the tribal members gave me this, and it's a really nice coat too. So he always likes to come back for the attention, but also he loves hanging out. He loves coming and hanging out with the Seminole tribal members, the tribal fair. And then also we had, like I was saying, we had Jessica Matten, who was just at that time she was in Resball, and I had no idea that. I mean, I knew she was in Dark Winds, but I had no idea that they were going to be picked up for another season, which she kind of like announced at the festival itself, and everybody was kind of like very very excited for that, which I wasn't expecting. So a lot of people were coming in, and when people come up to me, there's like, "Oh my God, it was such a successful event. How do you feel?" And I'm like scared. It's like I just want to like show film, but like I'm like I said before, I'm a little like an introvert. So the first thing I want to do is like, I would say the safest place for me is on stage. That's why nobody's like, you can have questions and stuff like that. But as soon as I get off stage, that's when I get scared. That's when like please don't touch my hand. I mean, not that, like don't shake my hand. I mean, not that bad, but you do get like people that just boom that come up to you, and you're just like sometimes I just want to like hide in the corner and watch a film or something. So sorry, going off track again. So Jessica Matten came down and she was in Resball, and I thought it would be a really good touch to have Jessica Matten talk about Resball, but then have one of our own tribal member, which is Dual Gore. And Dual Gore is doing called sorry, I have notes. Dual Gore has an organization called Res Famous Movement, where him and a couple of other people, they're doing documentary style, but they're actually going out and going to different tribes, different nations, different reservations, and teaching them actually resball, learning how to play basketball. And it's just an outlet for the youth to kind of keep out of trouble, and showing that, through team sports, you build leadership, you build confidence, you build independence. So with that, he's actually doing that. And I thought, what better way to advertise, or not advertise, but kind of like show his organization, but sharing it on stage with Jessica Matten, who was in Resball, which was about the very first thing, or very same thing. So I thought it was like art imitating life, life imitating art, but it turned out to be really good. And the only thing that sucks about the Native Real Cinema Fest, not saying like whatever, I can't enjoy it, because when Jessica Matten was on stage along with Du Gore, I gave up my thing. I gave up. Remember in the last episode, I was like, if anybody's trying to look for me, I'm behind the stage, whatever. They found out my secret space. So, or my whatever. So I no longer have it. So I got to find another secret spot to like hang out, whatever. But so when Jessica Matten had the Q&A along with Dual Gore, we brought him on stage. I was sitting back there watching, and sure enough, people were coming back there and telling me, "Hey, you need to be over here. Hey, you need to be at the powwow. You need to be whatever." So finally, I forgot who grabbed me, but they were taking me to the powwow part. They wanted to speak to me about something. I was like, "How are you guys able to know where I was at?" And they're like, "Your last podcast episode." So yeah, so I gave up my whatever. Um, and then so we also had Jessica Matten. We had Jane Myers, who produced and wrote Prey, which is a franchise of the Predator series, which is one of my favorite series. I'm not too much into sci-fi, but I do like certain movies such as, Predator, Aliens, kind of like sci-fi horror. I would say the only one that I would watch, like that catches my attention is, Star Wars, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I'll be candid, I know I'm a film buff, but I know what I like, but I need to check it out is, like, haven't seen Blade Runner, yeah. But I need to see it to kind of like up my repertoire. But there is a big, following for Indigenous sci-fi, which is really cool. And I think Prey, which was written by Jane Myers, kind of started that. So you have people such as, Taika Waititi just did or produced a sci-fi, which is called Night Raiders. And that's a really good film, which I didn't even know it was kind of considered sci-fi. Then we have a director named Gnu Bitton, who is a up and coming director. He's pretty well established in New York and Canada, but he's done one called, oh my God, Dim Man. And he actually takes like kind of like the backstory of that. It's a short film, but it's a time travel. But he goes into a sweat lodge, and the sweat lodge is actually like a time traveling sweat lodge, and he goes back to like say or to change the time that something tragic happens within his life, and he tries to go back and he uses a sweat lodge, but it kind of introduces time continuum, time matter. Just me talking about it was about to blow up my brain. But it has to do with time travel, and he kind of incorporates both traditional and futuristic, ideas such as time travel. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about that part. We brought Jane Myers. She talked about Prey. She talked about her documentary, which just got huge, huge raves and Sundance, and this is way before February 18th. And then on February 18th, Leonard Peltier was released. And she was actually talking about it at Date of Real about him being released on February 18th, which nobody even knew about. So we were kind of like exclusively having a Q&A of her announcing that. And her documentary kind of raised awareness to what had happened to Leonard Peltier. So that was a good experience. And then I did the Homegrown Indigenous Short Film Fest. And the Homegrown Indigenous Short Film, the reason why I called that is because there were so many films by Montana Cypress from Miccosukee, Doc Native from Seminole Tribe here in Hollywood Reservation. And then we had a couple of other films that were done in Arizona, I believe in Canada, that starred people who were Seminole tribal members or Miccosukee tribal members. So even though we weren't on film, we had a bunch of people on the back, like behind the camera helping out. And one of them was me. So I showed the short films, which was, oh my God, Where the Sawgrass Is, Ghost, one called Borders. And all of these films, I had something to do with it. I was the key grip scout location person. And I also did the crafting, which I got the food for everybody. And I produced some of them. I acted in one of them with Montana Cypress's short film. And then we had Stephen Paul Judd. He couldn't be there, but Stephen Paul Judd wanted us to show one of his films, which was called Mary Margaret Road Raider, which is like it's like a post-apocalyptic Mad Max. We showed it last year during, I believe it was the tribal powwow in November. And a lot of people loved it. It was outside. I didn't think anybody was going to watch it. It was outside because, you had a lot of things going on. You had alligator wrestling. Some guy brought in a tiger. There was a lion. And then I showed the film and we were like in the middle of a field. And I had asked Stephen Paul Judd, I was like, yeah, they want me to show films. Can I show this film? I know it just came out. It's hitting the film festival. He's like, let me check with the producers. And one of the producers was George R.R. Martin. And so that he was like, okay. So he's like, yeah, we got the okay. So you can show it, blah, blah, blah. So we showed it. And everybody that were at the alligator wrestling, at the line, whatever, they all stopped what they were doing. And they love the look of it because it almost kind of looks like a comic book style. Mm-hmm. And Martin Sinsmeyer was in it. So it got a really good reaction to it. So then people were asking me, am I ever going to show it again? So then I thought, what perfect way to show it at Native Real again, since Stephen Paul Judd couldn't be here. So I showed it in November. So I re-showed it again in this past one in February. And a lot of people loved it. And I noticed with the short films, I get a lot of audience members coming, and they come just for that. And it was almost like standing room only. And a lot of people were coming in. And I love seeing that. Oh, yeah. And the popcorn machine messed up because I tried to give like free popcorn, and Stephanie Chef Piet Despain was there. She's actually on Tournament of Champions. She won Next Level with Gordon Ramsay. She was actually there fixing the popcorn machine and handing out popcorn once it got fixed. So I thought that was really cool. So I have all these people that I met over the years, and they just been great. And they're willing to help out. Like Martin was willing to help out. Chef Piet was willing to help out. Like they just came there, and it felt like a family reunion. And again, we ended it off with we ended it off with The Last of the Mohicans, the 30th-ish anniversary. And then we brought everybody on stage who were in the short films. I think we had about 20 people on stage doing the Q&A. And then also I wanted to highlight not only that we had the Homegrown Indigenous short film, we did have Seminole tribal members that were in Last of the Mohicans back in 1990 when they filmed it. However, unfortunately, the person I wanted to bring on, which was Robert Frank, couldn't make it. He became ill. There was like a flu going around. So he couldn't make it. And but he kind of told me a little bit of the backstories and told me what was going on. So they got there. It was about a handful of Seminole tribal members mostly from the Brighton Reservation that went out to be extras in the film. Some of them were in some of the scenes where it was the battle scenes. Robert Frank, he was telling me that they had all long hair. It shows them they had like the 90s, late 80s, early 90s mullet cut type of thing. So I saw pictures. I showed the pictures during that time. I mean, I felt like I kind of did it justice, but I really wish, Bobby Frank would have been there to kind of really do it, bring it home. So he talked about how they would give extra money if they would shave their heads, and he went for it. So they gave them an extra, I think, $100 per day because they shaved their heads or they agreed to shave their hair. He was talking about how Bill Murray and Steve Martin were on set for Last of the Mohicans and how they were just there actually giving them food. Like when they would break for lunch, they were giving them their portion of their food. I think Bill Murray was like giving them their costumes, because when you go on set, you have to go to the costume designer and then you get your set. They put a number on it and then they give you whatever. Bill Murray was there. He was actually dating the costume designer at the time, or the stylist, and he was helping her. So when Bobby was saying when he walked up, he was like, "Oh, it's the guy from Caddyshack." So like, so he was like handing them, like it was people who were on set, and then they did it at, I want to say, is it Chimney Rock, North Carolina? Yeah, Chimney Rock. So they shot a lot of the scenes there, some of them near Cherokee, North Carolina. And so I was kind of like going into the story, but at the same time, when you're running a film fest, you have so much going on in your head. So there's a lot of things I kind of forgot to mention. But I wanted to bring on another guest who's a Seminole tribal member named Justin Gopher. We call him Cowboy, but he's from Brighton Reservation. He's a rodeo. He's a team roper. But he was actually talking about how he was on Yellowstone and how he went to, I believe it was a rodeo. Somebody was looking, like a casting director. They were looking for people for Yellowstone to do this kind of like a B-roll where they were going to have all these natives on horses, cattle ranchers, whatever, but it was native cattle ranchers in this scene. So it was him, a bunch of other people. And then when they were done with that scene, what the producer and director didn't know, but that was the first time they had so many natives on horseback. Sorry, my Brighton accent's coming out. They had so many natives on horseback that was the first time they had that many natives on camera for a scene. So that they just made history with that episode. That's what he was telling me. But he was like so calm, cool, and collected about it. He was like, "Yeah, we made history. We were like and he went into the whole story, and everybody's clapping and everything." And the thing is I know is, my uncles are cowboys. My dad, he's a cowboy, cattle rancher from Big Cypress, and my uncle Eddie Shore, they're cattle ranchers, but they just have this stone look. Like they could be just looking at you like, you know what, this is the happiest day of my life. All right, got to get back to work, whatever. So he kind of had that thing. So he enjoyed it. He brought his kids up there, and I think they all liked the experience. And once we were done, it's almost like going to camp. Like I wouldn't say I was dreading it. I just knew I was going to be stressed. I'm going to be running around, and a lot of you were there, I believe, and you saw me running around. But like once everything is done, it's just, you don't want to see them leave. And then we did something a little different this year. We actually did a community dinner, and I have a few pictures of that, and I have Wes Studi and Martin Sinsmeyer. They never had guava softki before. We did a social dance that tribal member Lorelei Piercing Eyes had put together. And it was a big thing. Yeah, the social dance, we just thought it was going to be like 30, maybe at the most 70 people. It turned out to be almost 300 people showed up, and we ran out of food like quick. So everybody got involved. I paid for some of the food. Lorelei paid for some of the food. Steve Osceola he got wings from down the street and brought some food, and it was just like a really good time, and everybody was sharing their dances. And even some of the Seminole tribal members here on the Hollywood Reservation, they kind of heard it. And I've been to certain, I wouldn't call them powwows, but where we did have like dances with the Chickasaw, Choctaws, Cherokees, and they sound similar. And they're sharing some of this. Some of them were vendors from the tribal fair. Some of them came out from Mississippi, I believe, for the basketball tournaments, and they just came out and started sharing their dances. And a lot of them sound similar to the Seminole stomp dancing songs. And a lot of the tribal members who haven't really experienced that, they're like, "Oh, it sounds just like our song." And we were really getting into it. Jay Myers was there. She went out there. Eugene Brave Rock. They all kind of went out there, and it was an experience. But then it was kind of like we all had to like wrap it up by 10 o'clock. And everybody was just like having a good time. But then like we're like, okay, get out. So that was a first time that we did, and it was kind of like a 10th anniversary type of setting. And I'm hoping to keep that going on, the whole social dance. But it's like, what's that old saying? Like putting lightning in a bottle again. So, but yeah, to answer your question, that's what it was like. Sorry.
No. I go hiking on my vacations, and one year I went up to North Carolina to do some hiking, and I actually ended up at Chimney Rock, and that whole mountain face where they filmed part of Last of the Mohicans, it was iced over, but that's one of my mom's favorite movies of all time, so I like grew up on that movie. The score is one of the most moving scores, I think, to this day of anything that's been created, so that's why I was like nod along like yes Chimney Rock, because I've been there too. It's gorgeous, but I want to ask, so other than keeping your little hidey spot secret, by the way, y'all heard it first here on the Hoporenkv Native American podcast. So don't put your new hidey place on blast. But other than, kind of finding a new place to kind of hide and take a breather during this whole event, what are some of like kind of the lessons learned that you would want to apply going into next year's Native Reel? Or even just things you want to make sure that you maybe continue on?
What I kind of want to keep doing and doing different is I would like to have them for a longer time. It's something I need to bring up to the celebrities, because that's the reason why I call it Native Reel Cinema Fest, because cinema to me, it's interactive. You're engaging the audience. I mean, you can stay at home and watch Last of the Mohicans. You can stay at home and watch Resball on Netflix. So shameless plug. But you could do all of this at your home, or you could go to a theater, like Cinemark or whatever. But I kind of want to give them an engaging experience, which is, you could watch Last of the Mohicans and actually meet Wes Studi, who was, that was in the movie, and things like that. And I kind of want to make it more, I want to do it more interactive. I was just talking about this yesterday, but I showed the 25th anniversary of Smoke Signals back in the day. And I don't know if I said this story before in the previous one, but I had the culture department. And that's the other thing. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent again. That's the other thing. I didn't think anybody noticed me doing these. They just thought, I did hear like kind of like, oh, you just show films, or you just sit around in your little secret spot and watch films all day, But I know I try to make it more interactive, but the culture department reached out to me. A lot of tribal members they were like, hey, if you need help, let us know, to make they love it. And I'll be honest, like I would say one of the years I was about to give up, I showed a film. I paid money out of my own pocket. And I barely saw anybody watching the film, maybe one or two people, and they loved it, but like, it kind of like deteriorates you, like your motivation. I was like, you know what? Let's just give up, like whatever. I'm not here. Although I love the celebrities, I've grown connections with them, but I was like, the whole reason is to show films. That was the whole reason why I'm here at Tribal Fair, but like nobody. And I was like, we're just going to give up. So I did make like a statement on my Facebook, I was kind of frustrated, like I'm human too. So I was like, you know what, if nobody's going to watch the films, then this is going to be the last year of Cinema Fest. And I got like these slew of messages like, no, keep it going. Sorry, we couldn't make it, blah, blah, blah. But we love what you're doing. Keep, if it wasn't for you. I showed one film called Rumble. the influence of Indigenous. It's a long title, sorry. Um, but it was called Rumble, and a young tribal member who was giving up on music saw that, and it actually encouraged them to start writing and making music again. So through music, or not through music, but through film, I was encouraging people. It's not my project particularly, but like I go out and I go to these film fests like Imaginative and Santa Fe India Market, and I see these films, and whatever touches me, like that's what I try to bring back here. So anyway, I was kind of about to give up, and the culture department, they reached out to me and they was like, "Is there anything we can do?" And so the culture department, during that time when I showed the 25th anniversary of smoke signals, there's a scene where she rips the fry bread in half. So I had the culture department make fry bread. So before that scene, I calculated to the T, like the time it was gonna. I had my volunteers grab the fry bread trays and go out and give every person that was there a fry bread, so then they could actually feel that scene. You know what I mean? So I would like to do more things like interactive like that. You know, not like a 4DX experience, like whatever, you know, like the chairs. I mean, I could have somebody like rumble the chair or something like that while you're doing it, but something of that nature. And, you know, and then I feel kind of bad because when I had, sorry, I'm like name dropping everywhere. Um, I had Graham Greene for one of the Native Real uh, years that we had him, and I felt so bad because he really wanted to see the reservation. He really wanted to see, like, he saw pictures. I believe it might have been Big Cypress, but the schedule that I have for these actors, these talents, it's very strict. Like, soon as they get off the plane, they're like hitting the ground running. So I felt so bad. Then when I was driving him to the airport, I was just like, oh, so, and like, you know, I'm just making conversation. I was like, so how did you like the tribal fair? And he was like, I don't know. All I ever saw was the window outside my hotel room. And I felt so bad. So because of that, that's what kind of made me like, if I could keep them longer, show them Big Cypress, you know. And then when we had that social dance with Lorelai, and then having the community involved in the culture departments that, you know, will provide the food, you know, whatever, and, you know, just have break bread with the community. Like, I want to do that more often, and I kind of want to incorporate kind of like with the social dance, kind of incorporate like a traditional night when they come in and breaking bread with the community and having them, you know, enjoying their time. But then right after that, it's like, yep, get to work. So I kind of want to incorporate that to kind of like have them come in, and then I'm gonna say it here, but before I have to bring it up to the Tribal Fair Committee, I kind of want to move it from Fridays to Saturdays to Saturday and Sunday. So we could have the actor come in on Thursday or Friday, have them relax, and then Saturday, that's when we have boom, 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 boom. They have grand entry, meet and greet, Q&A, photo ops. Like Saturday's like basically like hitting the ground running. I know I keep saying that, and then Sunday is kind of like we'll show like maybe the world premiere of the film, and then like wrap it off right there on Sunday. So I'm gonna bring that. So hopefully next year is gonna be Saturday and Sunday rather than Friday and Saturday. So those are the changes I would like to make, and I want to keep that social and community event component within Native Real Cinema Fest.
Now, that's lovely. And you had mentioned using like local food vendors, using tribal food vendors, making sure that everybody kind of gets, that flavor of, South Florida and Seminole specific food while they're here. And that's awesome. For the record, if you need somebody to come and shake chairs while the moves are playing, maybe do like a little misting for the water action if you want to take it to that level. I got you. I also wanted to ask, so you've done everything from key grip, writing, acting yourself. You directed that Powwow commercial this year, which was amazing. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Sure. Sorry. Along with this being the 10th anniversary, I saw them from the ground up, and I feel like, I feel like I'm a part of the group. Like, they're part of this family too. Like, when they come here, tribal members come up to them, like Eugene Brave Rock, he came and brought his own Airstream caravan down here and hung out with Billy Walker and Big Cypress, catching gators and everything. And that was just something he wanted to do. So I'm more like I like watching films, but I know I got to keep a business sense or a business mind together too. So he was like, yeah, man. He's like, I'm gonna come down there. I'll come down there early. And I was like, but we're only gonna pay you from this day to this day. If you come, you're on your own. And he's like, oh, yeah, I don't mind. It's like, and then he's like, so he's doing this initiative. Hold on, I'm sorry. It's called the Oki Language Project. So he's going and basically talking to elders, talking to people within the community about how the community's changed through time, keeping the importance of culture and language. So he's doing this. I believe Airstream is a sponsor of it. But he came down early, but just for his own personal project. And he interviewed Billy Walker. And if you know Billy Walker, like we do, he's the type that doesn't sit around. And when I guess Eugene called, I was like, yeah, let me put you in contact with Billy Walker. He's like, yeah, I'm going to park at the RV camp and then I'll meet up with Billy Walker. So I haven't heard anything. So I was like, oh man, I hope he found him or whatever. So I called, I believe that 9 o'clock that evening when he was supposed to arrive. And uh, he answered, Eugene answered the phone and he said, yeah, we just caught a gator and we're at his camp right now, basically fixing it up to eat. And then I was like, oh, are you having a good time? And then he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm having the best time. And then the next day he's like showing pictures of them catching, like, I think it was like a 14-foot gator and all that other stuff. Yeah. So I was like, I was telling Billy Walker, I was like, hey, I still need him for the film festival weekend. Can you make sure he has all his fingers and toes and everything else? Um, so they all kind of become a part of the family. And when I was seeing all these people, but when I saw like them coming up and them being a part of the family, I've spent time with Stephen Paul Judd and then one of my other good friends, Kenneth Shirley. They started making all these films and short films. And, and I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so much that goes into this. Like, what you see, again, what you see like in movies and stuff like that, you see storyboards, you see whatever. They're like coming up with the ideas isn't hard. It's coming up with the money that's pretty tricky. They were telling me, but I was looking at it, I was like, man, I could do that. So me and my good friend David Diaz, we actually started our own production company called Southern Indian Productions because of the commercials. So we started doing like, I guess they're called micro short films or microfilms. It sounds like a James Bond, like the microfilm, whatever. So we did a microfilm, which is like a 2-minute like short film, like a short film. So hence microfilm. So we did this 2-minute film. It actually won an award. It's called Losing Control. So we did it and it kind of got our creative juices going, So then when I was like, oh my God, we got to do something else. So we were coming up with these ideas of, let's do this short film on, a res car. Let's do this one on a, kind of like a Are You Afraid of the Dark version of, res horror stories, stuff like that. So we were coming up with all these ideas, but then it wasn't really kind of going anywhere. We were just sitting there in a room, just like, we could film here, we could film there, but then, life happened. You got to pay bills. You got this engagement you're committed to. So then out of nowhere, a couple of tribal members came up to me and they said they want something different for the tribal fair commercial. They want more of a production value. And one of them had a contact with a hoop dancing group, whatever. Sorry, hate saying whatever. A hoop dancing family. And her name is Soon Wai. And it was her family, the Lawrence family. They were at AIAC, but they were leaving within 2 days. So we had like a day to shoot with them. So then I came up with the story and I was like, you know what? I always want, and it was an inspiration from Stephen Paul Judd's picture where it's these tribal members, they're sitting in a movie theater, but they're all dressed in regalia. But they had the 3D glasses looking at the film. That's what gave me the inspiration. So I was like, you know what really would kind of like mesh the two? I mean, we all know what tribal fair and powwow, tribal members, tribal employees, people who lived here, but really nobody really heard about it. Sometimes when I mention it, like at these film festivals, like, oh, we never heard about that, It would be cool to infuse that, but with pop cinema or pop culture, putting traditional culture with pop culture. So then I was like, what better way to have that, but then have like a Tarantino-esque kind of like commercial. So I got, a friend of mine to loan us his 1967 Lincoln Continental. And it comes up, and then they all come out in their regalia with wearing sunglasses. And I tried to, if you saw Reservoir Dogs, not Reservation Dogs, but Reservoir Dogs, where they're walking up slow, I try to encompass that same scene, but have them wear the traditional style and have them dancing the jingle dress and the hoop dancing as they're walking up to the front. And I tried to do it almost shot for shot as Reservoir Dogs. We almost got it, to the T. Like if you kind of match them up, they almost look similar, which I wasn't even going for. And then it was me, David, and actually one of my good friends, Carrie Dilly, who helped us. We launched it. We were all sitting. We have video of us launching it, like in my office, and we launched it. And within 2 hours, it got 10,000 views, and then it was shared over 700 times. And I was like, oh man. So then I was like, oh, we did it. We kind of like went up there. And then we did another commercial for IAMF. And this one, a lot of people didn't know about smoke signals. Like even, like the young, like even my kids didn't know about smoke signals, but, people who aren't tribal or non-natives, they never really heard of it, even though it was the first Native American film produced, directed, acted that was but shown in major theaters like AMC, Regal. Nobody really knew. And it was Native Indigenous that was produced by, at that time, it was Miramax. But like nobody really heard about it. So then we tried to replicate that same feel, whatever. We try to make it kind of like honky tonk, type of thing. Because I was talking to Marianne Billy, councilwoman Rep Marianne Billy. We call her Shinuchki. She was saying, she said she wanted to make it more rugged. So that was all she told me. She was like, I want to have it kind of like rugged, whatever. And so I was like, okay, so we'll try to do whatever. So what better way was just to have the smoke signals, having whatever. So we try to do, the person talking on the radio, and then me. Yeah, the other thing, it wasn't supposed to be me that was going to be in the movie. I didn't want to be like I didn't want to be like somebody, oh yeah, like, who'd be great for this scene? Me, whatever. Yeah. I didn't want to be like that. So the person that we wanted to do that part had to back out at the last minute. So I had to step in. I hate being on camera. I don't know, it's like a dysmorphia, whatever type of thing. I don't know what they call it, but I just hate seeing myself on camera, and it's weird. I heard this, it's like, we have all this equipment, like CGI. We can make things look at the past. We can bring somebody who passed away, but we can never take 10 pounds off of you when you're on camera for some reason. We don't have that technology yet. But it's like when I was like, oh my God, I hate looking at myself on camera. But so finally we shoot the episode. We did it really, we brought in another elder. The first elder that we brought in for the first commercial was Connie Gallen, which was the first Seminole princess. Oh, wait, no, I ain't gonna say her. She's already getting mad at me already. But in the golden age, let's put it that way. So then we brought another one, which was Carol Cypress. So she's language. She used to head the language department. She used to teach language. She's the wife of the late Billy Cypress, who ran the museum. So what better way to bring her on? And so towards the end of the commercial, we had her come on. And the Indigenous Art Music Festival, the commercial we were doing it for, was honoring elders. So what better way to honor her? And so then we had that, and we showed that. So pretty much the numbers that I saw, this was about a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. Gordon Ollie Warham, who's the director of the Atiki Museum, and Carol is his aunt, he would like look at the numbers, and he was telling me, yeah, the commercial you did for Tribal Fair hit 1.3 million views. And he was like, you know what the IMF one hit? And I was like, less? And he was like, 1.4. So I was like, oh crap. So then at that point, I looked at my friend David, and I was like, should we start our own Southern India Productions? And he's like, I'm already on it. He's like, all you got to do is look at this, blah, blah, blah. And we could just sign it here, and we could start our own Southern. So we're registered at Southern India Productions and we're LLC now. So because of that commercial, we kind of like start our own production company. So I was like, so when the actors and Stephen Paul Judd, and I was talking to him, And then one of my good friends, Adam Conti, Kenneth Shirley, Adam Conti, they came here for the Borders premiere that I showed for the homegrown Indigenous short film block. They were here. They're Emmy Award winners for a doc series on YouTube. But they're really great people. They're really fun to hang out with. So I come walking up and I was like, hey, guess what? They're like, what? And I was like, I'm a director too. So we showed some of the commercials I did during the homegrown thing. So it's just like a big family. And it's just, I've always wanted that. I mean, not only having my own family, but having a family that's in film, TV, that have the same interests. You know, it went from that little round table that I had with, you know, talented directors, actors, you know, my good friend David, that we were all sitting around like, we should do this, we should do that. And then like, we'll kind of like challenge each other and we'll say, okay, within a year, I want to see it on YouTube, or within a year, I would like to see something done, you know? And so we'll challenge. And then when we see each other that next year, we're like, so yep, we did a commercial. Like they wanted me to, they're like, we want to see you do a short film that you directed. And I was like, okay, well, I did 2 commercials. I got 1.2 billion views. What did you do? Sorry. But it's things like that. We kind of haze each other. And then, you know, it's just, it's like a workout buddy, you know, or I don't know how you say it, accountability partner type of thing. So they kind of keep you going, and then, you know, they get busy. And then Stephen Paul Judd, you know, he's writing and directing his episodes for Dark Winds for this season. They just got renewed for season 4. So Adam Conti, Kenneth Shirley, they're doing major projects in Arizona. So everything that's happening on the West Coast, I would love to bring here on the East Coast. I would love to do a studio here in South Florida, like an Indigenous studio. So that's what I'm working on right now. And also workshops for the youth.
No, that's amazing. Having seen both of the commercials that you're referencing, you put me on to smoke signals, and then also brought up the Tarantino pan.
Oh,
Beautifully shot, beautifully produced. Cinematography was fantastic, and all of the things that you alluded to as, you know, the inspiration came across so clear. I cannot stress enough how amazing those commercials turned out. You did just mention the youth, so not necessarily exclusively youth, but what advice would you give to your fellow Native cinephiles who want to get into Indigenous film, who want to be a part of this world? You know, you've had so many different positions. What advice would you give to somebody else who wants to join the family, as you put it?
I would say the advice I would give is be yourself. I know that's cliche, but it's just like, if you have an idea, if you have, just like when they say when you have a dream and stuff like that, I want to kind of hit it more on point, that if you have something and you don't want to derive from it, stick to it. You know, if you feel like it will be better to see it, you know, and have this shown to other people, then go for it. Pretty much when I started thinking about that, I mean, and I'll be honest, it is a hard industry. I don't know everything about the industry myself. I'm still learning as I go. But it is a hard industry, you know, and you do have a lot of people I would say be very protective of what you believe in and hold on to it. Like, just like with Native Real, like that was my baby. And it's just like anything else. Like, you know, I have 2 daughters, you know, I don't want nobody to hurt them. I don't want them, you know, to be taken advantage of, you know, so that's how I feel towards my Native Real. Like, I don't want to just put anybody in there unless it's something that benefits, nourishes it. So that's how I feel towards filming. Like, for instance, I was supposed to come on a project and they were going to do it, and I wanted to do it within the Creek language. But and this is way before Reservation Dogs, before you would see like the Creek language and you would see the subtitles. I had the dream of seeing something similar to that. And I had the director saying like, no, they're not going to get it. No, it's too much money to put the subtitles, which I know he was BSing me, because it wasn't. You know, sometimes when I come in, I try to play like, oh yeah, what is this? What is this computer? What's a computer? You know, like I kind of play like I just came into the game. Yeah. But I know like certain things that they tell me, because they want their look, they want whatever. But I feel if it's your narrative, whether you're Native, you know, Black, white, whatever, stick to your narrative, but also stay true to yourself. And if you want this story to be told honestly, do it the best way you know how to tell it, the way you envision it. Because if you have somebody else who brings it on and telling you what to do, it's going to become their vision, and it's not going to come out the way you want it. And also try to stick to, if you're going to do like a historical piece, have the key elements to that historical piece, even though there's entertainment value. But if you ever have somebody say, oh, well, we're going to have to kind of sacrifice the historical, no, because if that happens, that means you're rewriting history, and people are only interested in seeing the entertainment value and not the key message that you want to show within that part. So, pretty much that's what I could best give is if you have a project, if you have an idea, stick with it. Don't derive from it. If it's something you're very passionate about, don't let anybody kind of tell you any different. Not even me, anybody else. Just stick to your guns. And then also, just one more plug, sorry. So because of that, I want to start doing workshops and having, the youth do storyboard, script writing. And Jessica Matten, who's in Resball and Dark Winds, she approached me, and she actually has an organization called Seven Forward Entertainment, and she's actually going and doing workshops for youths and showing them that very thing. And she was actually here in Seminole Country 10 years ago. She was with her mom, and they would teach about health and wellness and, how to eat right, which I never knew. And then she said, even back then, like the family, which was Spencer and June Batiste, they took her in, fed her, make sure that she got her and her mom to go wherever. So she has like a big heart for the Seminole tribe of Florida. But also with this, she was saying like she would like to come back and kind of like help me out with the workshops that I want to do with the youth. And then, to me, I feel like film, it saved me from a lot of things, from trouble, from getting in trouble. It taught me a lot of things too, from other different cultures as well. So I feel with film, it's our new way of storytelling. So she believes in the same vision I do. So hopefully within the next year or so, me and her could work together and actually do a workshop with the youth, hopefully in Big Cypress.
Oh no, that sounds amazing. What a powerful thing to get, young folks started early, learning how to build a craft, developing a passion, being able to tell their own stories and giving them the avenue through which to do it. So y'all heard there's a lot of different opportunities going out there. Any final words for our listeners?
Not really. I guess I'll see you next month, Brooke. But stay tuned because we do have a lot of events and a lot of content coming out within this year. I have a lot of people. I have a lot of support now, which I am very grateful for. Other than my Southern Indian Productions company, I think he stepped it up and want to start doing podcasts, screening events. They want me to help out with AIAC, and they're coming out with Comic-Cons where I'm actually going to start talking at those events. So a lot of things are coming for Native Real Cinema Fest, and now the newly Southern Indian Productions. So stay tuned, and I just want to thank everybody, Mado, Shanabashat, for the support, and thank you for helping me out with this past year's Native Real Cinema Fest 2025. There's a lot to mention, but Councilman Chris Osceola, Tommy Motlow, Virginia Osceola, Carrie Dilley, Tiffany Marquez, the list goes on, Eugenia Osceola, Wanda Bauer. So I wanted to thank them, saying Mado, Shanabashat to them, and stay tuned.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sitting down with us again, Everett. Always a fun episode when you come and join us. You can see a lot of different things to look forward to, folks. But I think that brings us to the end of this episode. A huge thank you once again to Everett. As always, thank you for listening to the Hoporenkv Native American podcast. If you enjoy our show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please also visit our website, nativelearningcenter.com. You can find out more information on our upcoming webinars and our trainings, and feel free to contact our website. All right, folks, we hope to connect with you again really soon. Take care.